If you are seeing this, pause for a moment and let your shoulders relax. Breathe. Not because your journey has been easy, but because your heart has carried questions for longer than you admit. You have watched seasons change, candles multiply on birthday cakes, and timelines shift in ways you did not plan. Somewhere along the way, you began to wonder if God's promises had an age limit, if love had a deadline, or if the desires He placed in your heart were meant to be quietly buried under acceptance. But hear this gently and clearly. God does not rush what He designs, and He does not forget what He promised. What you are approaching is not late, it is aligned. There is a quiet work God does in people who have waited beyond what culture calls on time. Waiting has a way of stripping illusions and refining intention. You no longer want love just to avoid loneliness. You want purpose, partnership, alignment. You want someone who does not compete with your calling but complements it. Someone who does not fear your growth but celebrates it. This is not desperation speaking. This is discernment awakening. Proverbs 19:14 says, houses and wealth are inherited from parents, but a prudent spouse is from the Lord. A prudent spouse is not rushed into existence. They are revealed in season. You have lived long enough to know that chemistry without character collapses under pressure. Attraction without alignment fades. Passion without purpose burns out. God has been protecting you from relationships that would have distracted you from destiny. You may not have seen it then, but heaven saw the end from the beginning. Romans 8:28 reminds us that all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to His purpose. Even the relationships that did not last taught you what you would no longer tolerate, and what you truly value. There were nights you prayed quietly, asking God if He saw you. There were moments you smiled at weddings while wondering if your own story had been overlooked. There were seasons when you told yourself you were fine, strong, content, while still carrying a holy desire for companionship. God is not offended by that desire. He designed it. Genesis tells us that God Himself said, it is not good for man to be alone. That statement came before sin, before failure, before disappointment. It came from God's understanding of partnership, not human pressure. What changes? After 30 is not God's ability to bless, but your capacity to steward what He gives. You have grown. You have healed in ways you once thought impossible. You have learned to communicate, to set boundaries, to recognize red flags without ignoring your own worth. God often delays connection until identity is settled, because a confused identity attracts confusion. A healed heart attracts health. Amos 3:3 asks, can two walk together unless they are agreed? Agreement requires clarity, and clarity comes with maturity. There is a difference between loneliness and readiness. Loneliness seeks relief. Readiness seeks alignment. God prepares kingdom partners by shaping their values, their vision, their faith, and their ability to serve one another. Marriage in the kingdom is not an escape from singleness. It is an assignment. Two people carrying purpose, choosing unity daily. Ecclesiastes 4:12 reminds us that a cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. God is not an accessory in kingdom partnership. He's the center. You may feel a quiet stirring now, not excitement rooted in fantasy, but peace rooted in trust. Peace is often the first sign that God is shifting something internally before it appears externally. Philippians 4:7 speaks of the peace of God that surpasses understanding, guarding hearts and minds. Guarding comes before giving. God guards your heart so that when love arrives, it does not have to heal wounds you were meant to surrender to Him. After 30, love becomes less about proving and more about choosing. You no longer need someone to complete you. You want someone to walk with you. Jesus lived His life whole, complete, secure in the Father, yet He still chose relationship, community, companionship. Wholeness does not eliminate desire. It purifies it. God is not sending you someone to fix you. He is aligning you with someone to build with you. Do not mistake your season of preparation for punishment. God hides precious things until the right moment. David was anointed king long before he sat on the throne. Ruth met Boaz after loss, after relocation, after obedience in obscurity. Their story unfolded not because of haste, but because of humility and timing. Ruth did not chase Boaz. She followed God. An alignment brought connection. What God ordains, He arranges. You may have felt pressure from voices around you, meaning or not asking questions, making comments, offering timelines God never gave them. But Psalm 127, 1 reminds us that unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it. You do not want a house built by pressure. You want a covenant built by God. There is also a sacred confidence forming in you. Not arrogance, but assurance. Assurance that you are not settling. Assurance that you are not behind. Assurance that God's hand is still writing your story. Hebrews 11 speaks of people who died believing without seeing fulfillment. Yet you are still here, still believing, still expecting. Expectation anchored in God is never wasted. God is also preparing your future partner in ways you cannot see. They are learning lessons you will one day thank God for. They are shedding immaturity, healing wounds, discovering purpose. Kingdom partners often meet after separate are. Refining processes. Refinement aligns timing. You may notice that your prayers have changed. You pray less for someone and more for the right one. You ask God to prepare you both, not just to connect you. That prayer is wisdom. James 1:5 promises that God gives wisdom generously to those who ask. Wisdom leads relationships that last. Your age does not disqualify you. It qualifies you for discernment. Your past does not diminish your future. It informs it. God is not intimidated by your history. He is the redeemer of time, the restorer of years. The locust has eaten. Joel 2:25 is not poetry. It is promise. There is something powerful about love that arrives when you are no longer rushing. It carries calm. It carries clarity. It carries confirmation. When God brings your kingdom partner, there will be alignment in faith, peace in direction, and agreement in values. It will not be perfect, but it will be purposeful. And as this truth settles into your heart, let it remain there, growing quietly, strengthening your hope, refining your expectations, aligning your trust with God's wisdom. As the journey continues forward without panic, without pressure, without finality spoken yet. Because what God is unfolding is still in motion, still forming, still drawing near, and the rhythm of preparation continues. And in this continued unfolding, God is inviting you to release the subtle fear that time has somehow worked against you. Time has not betrayed you, it has trained you. Very year has added discernment to your decisions, depth to your prayers, and clarity to your desires. You no longer romanticize potential without evidence. You value consistency over charisma, faithfulness over intensity, fruit over promises. This is not cynicism. This is wisdom earned through experience. You are learning that God often delays partnership to protect purpose. Two people walking together must first know where they are going. Direction precedes union. When purpose is unclear, relationships become substitutes for identity. God refuses to let love replace him. Matthew 6:33 reminds you to seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added. Added means supplemental, not central. Love flourishes best when God remains the source. There were seasons when you questioned whether your standards were too high. But standards rooted in Scripture are not pride. They are protection. You are not asking for perfection. You are asking for alignment in faith, alignment in values, alignment in vision. 2 Corinthians 6:14 warns against being unequally yoked, not as restriction, but as wisdom. Two lives moving in opposite spiritual directions create strain, not strength. God has also been reshaping how you see yourself. You are no longer defining your worth by relationship status. Singleness did not diminish you, it developed you. You learned independence without isolation, strength without hardness, patience without passivity. These qualities will serve your future partnership well. A healthy marriage is not two halves becoming whole, but two wholes choosing unity. You may notice that your heart feels quieter now, less anxious, less pressured. This quiet is not resignation, it is trust. Trust signals readiness. When the heart rests, discernment sharpens. You are learning to recognize peace as God's green light. Colossians 3:15 encourages you to let the peace of Christ rule in your heart. Rule implies authority. Peace governs wise decisions. God is also teaching you how to forgive your own past choices. Regret loses power when grace is received. Shame has no authority in a redeemed life. Romans 8:1 declares there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. Condemnation blocks intimacy. Grace restores hope. You are learning to release comparisons. Someone else's timeline is not your template. Sarah conceived Isaac when logic said it was impossible. Elizabeth carried John the Baptist in what many would call late. God specializes in redefining what is possible. When God moves, age becomes irrelevant. You may sense God inviting you to prepare emotionally, spiritually, and practically. Preparation is not obsession, it is stewardship. You are becoming intentional about prayer, community, and emotional health. Kingdom partnerships thrive in healthy environments. God often connects prepared people, not perfect ones. You are also learning how to pray with authority rather than uncertained. Why you pray for alignment, protection, clarity, and timing. You ask God to remove distractions and counterfeit connections. That prayer is powerful. God honors prayers that protect destiny. There's also a refining happening in your expectations of romance. You are learning that love is sustained by commitment, not constant excitement. Emotion fluctuates, covenant anchors. Jesus demonstrated love not through feelings, but through sacrifice. Love is patient, kind, enduring. 1 Corinthians 13 is not poetry, it is instruction. God is teaching you that attraction rooted in purpose lasts longer than attraction rooted in appearance. Beauty fades, character remains. Charm impresses, consistency sustains. You are no longer impressed by words alone. You look for fruit. Jesus said you will know them by their fruit. Matthew 7:16. Discernment saves time and protects the heart. You may also notice that God is healing fears of vulnerability. Past disappointments taught you caution, but God is teaching you courage again. Vulnerability does not mean abandoning wisdom. It means trusting God enough to open your heart at the right time, to the right person, in the right way. God is also aligning divine appointments. Kingdom partners often meet unexpectedly in ordinary moments through obedience rather than pursuit. Ruth was gleaning in a field when destiny found her. She was working, not waiting. Obedience positions you for encounter. You are learning that desperation repels alignment, but wholeness attracts it. Wholeness does not mean absence of desire. It means presence of contentment. Contentment is confidence in God's provision. Philippians 4:11 speaks of learning to be content in all circumstances. Learning implies process. You may feel moments of renewed hope stirring gently, not loudly. This hope feels grounded, not frantic. It does not demand timelines. It trusts God's wisdom. Hope anchored in God does not disappoint. God is also teaching you how to release fear of rejection. Rejection is redirection. What passed you by was not aligned with your destiny. God filters connections to protect covenant. You are learning that marriage is not a finish line. It is a partnership in progress. God is preparing you not just to receive love, but to give it well. Giving requires emotional maturity, humility, and patience. You are also learning how to recognize God's confirmation. Confirmation often comes through peace, counsel, scripture, and consistency. God is not confusing. He does not rush clarity. There may be moments when loneliness whispers lies. When it does, return to truth. You are not alone. God is present. Psalm 34:18 reminds you that the Lord is close to the brokenhearted. Closeness matters. You are learning to trust that God's delays refine discernment. Discernment protects future joy. God is also shaping your prayer life to include gratitude for what is coming, even before it arrives. Gratitude activates faith. Faith honors God. You are Leah, running to let go of fear that love might require you to shrink. Kingdom partnership enlarges purpose. The right person does not compete with your calling. They contribute to it. God is teaching you that timing matters as much as connection. Even the right person at the wrong time creates confusion. God aligns timing carefully. You are also learning to trust God's process even when others do not understand it. Approval from heaven outweighs approval from people. You may notice a new sense of stability within you. Stability attracts stability. God prepares hearts in parallel. You are learning that waiting seasons often deepen intimacy with God. Intimacy sustains future relationships. God is also teaching you to surrender control over how and when connection happens. Surrender invites peace. You are learning that God's promises are not fragile. They withstand time. You are becoming more aware of your own readiness. Readiness is not perfection. It is willingness. God is shaping patience into wisdom. Wisdom sustains love. You are learning to trust God's voice over cultural noise. Culture pressures, God guides. You are also learning that your story will glorify God in its own unique way. There is no template. You may sense God's assurance settling deeper within you. Assurance steadies faith. God is aligning hearts beyond what you can see. Alignment often happens quietly. You are learning to wait with expectancy, not anxiety. God is preparing something intentional, purposeful, and lasting. And as this journey continues, as your faith deepens, as your trust strengthens, as your heart remains open yet guarded by wisdom, the unfolding continues without urgency, without fear, without closure yet spoken, as God keeps working behind the scenes, aligning timing, refining hearts, and drawing what He has ordained steadily closer, allowing the rhythm of preparation, trust, and hope to continue on without an ending, yet revealed. And as that rhythm continues, God is also teaching you how to live fully now without placing your life on hold for what is coming. You are discovering that your life is not a waiting room, it is a workshop. God has been shaping joy in you that does not depend on relationship status. This joy is not denial of desire, it is maturity of faith. Joy that exists before partnership will sustain joy within partnership. Psalm 37:4 says to delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. Delight does not cancel desire. It aligns it. You are learning that attraction in the kingdom is spiritual before it is emotional or physical. Two spirits recognize alignment before two hearts feel romance. This is why God has been sharpening your spiritual sensitivity. You notice shifts quicker now. You discern motives more clearly. You feel peace or restraint without needing excessive explanation. This sensitivity is not accidental. It is preparation. God is also teaching you patience without passivity. Patience does not mean disengagement. It means disciplined hope. You still show up to life. You still build. You still serve. You still grow. You simply refuse to chase what God has not released. Isaiah 3:15 reminds you that in quietness and trust is your strength. Strength grows when you stop striving. There were moments when you feared becoming too independent to connect deeply. But God has balanced independence with openness. You are learning that independence rooted in wholeness does not threaten intimacy, it enhances it. You bring something to the table now, not need, but value. Partnership thrives when both people contribute from abundance rather than lack. God is also reshaping how you interpret delays. Delay has protected you from settling. Settling silences purpose. God refuses to allow you to shrink your destiny for temporary comfort. He would rather stretch your patience than shrink your calling. You are learning to trust that God knows the complexity of your heart. He knows the tenderness you guard. He knows the hope you protect. He knows the fears you rarely voice. Psalm 139 reminds you that He searches and knows you completely. A God who knows you fully is capable of matching you wisely. You may notice that your prayers now include surrender expectations you once clung to tightly. You release the idea of how, when, where, and through whom. Surrender expands possibility. God works best when He is trusted fully. God is also teaching you to value godly counsel. You list and more carefully now. You are less defensive, more discerning. Wisdom multiplies when pride decreases. Proverbs tells us that in the multitude of counselors there is safety. You are learning that kingdom partnership is not about finding someone flawless, but someone submitted. Submission to God creates safety in relationship. Two submitted hearts can navigate imperfection with grace. God is also preparing you to recognize love that feels peaceful rather than chaotic. Chaos once felt exciting, peace now feels powerful. Peace is not boring, it is stable. Stability allows growth. You are learning that attraction aligned with God does not demand compromise. It invites integrity. You do not have to negotiate your values to be loved. The right person will honor what God honors in you. God is also strengthening your ability to wait without withdrawing emotionally. Guarded hearts cannot love fully. God is healing guardedness without removing wisdom. Balance is forming. You may sense that your identity in Christ feels more solid than ever. Identity anchors relationship. When identity is secure, love flows freely. God is teaching you to let go of the fear that you may miss God's will. God's will is not fragile. If you remain submitted, He will guide you. Proverbs 3:5-6 reminds you that He will direct your paths. You are also learning to recognize divine alignment rather than emotional urgency. Emotional urgency pressures. Divine alignment reassures. Alignment feels steady, not true. Shed. God is preparing you to recognize love that respects your pace. Rushed love often conceals insecurity. Healthy love honors timing. You are learning that God often brings confirmation in layers. First peace, then alignment, then clarity, then fruit. God does not confuse His children. You may feel a renewed confidence in your worth, not prideful, but settled. Settled hearts choose wisely. God is also teaching you how to release fear of vulnerability by reminding you that He is your covering. Psalm 91 declares His protection. Protection precedes partnership. You are learning that your story will not be defined by what you lacked, but by how faithfully you trusted. Faith writes better stories than fear. God is also aligning your desires with His design. Design determines durability. You may notice that you are less reactive to loneliness. Loneliness no longer dictates your decisions. Wisdom leads now. God is teaching you to recognize red flags early without ignoring green lights. Discernment sharpens with use. You are learning to trust that God can orchestrate connection without manipulation. What is divinely arranged does not need to be forced. God is also preparing you for the humility required in partnership. Marriage reveals character. God develops character first. You are learning that kingdom love grows through shared obedience. Obedience unites hearts. God is strengthening your ability to communicate honestly. Communication sustains connection. You are learning to trust God's faithfulness through evidence of past provision. Reflection builds confidence. God is also teaching you to rest in the truth that your future is secure. Security frees the heart. You may sense that your faith feels quieter but deeper. Depth sustains intimacy. God is shaping your expectations to match His promises, not cultural narrative. You are learning that timing reveals readiness. God is also reminding you that He is never late. He is always intentional. You are becoming more aware that your journey is not behind schedule, it is on assignment. God is working in ways unseen. You are learning to trust Him with outcomes. God is aligning hearts, refining faith, shaping purpose. And as this process continues, as trust deepens, as patience strengthens, as discernment sharpens, as peace settles more firmly within you, the journey keeps unfolding without pressure, without fear, without final closure yet declared, as God continues orchestrating timing, shaping hearts, and drawing together what He has ordained, allowing the rhythm of faith, preparation, and hope to continue steadily forward, still in motion, still unfolding, still being written. And within that steady unfolding, God is also teaching you how to honor the season you are in without idolizing the season you are praying for. Honor attracts grace. When you honor where you are, you stop resisting what God is using to shape you. Resistance creates frustration, but surrender creates growth. God is not wasting your present while preparing your future. He is weaving them together. You are learning that many of the prayers you prayed in your 20s were sincere but incomplete. You prayed for love, but now you pray for wisdom and love. You prayed for connection, but now you pray for covenant. You prayed for excitement, but now you pray for endurance. This shift reveals maturity. God responds differently to mature prayers because they are aligned with long-term purpose. God is also teaching you how to recognize emotional health as spiritual stewardship. Emotional immaturity sabotages spiritual blessings. Love requires emotional intelligence, knowing how to listen, how to apologize, how to forgive, how to remain present even when uncomfortable. God has been tutoring you quietly through life experiences, conversations, disappointments, and healing moments. You may realize that some of your unanswered prayers were actually answered through protection. God blocked relationships that would have required you to abandon peace, to maintain connection. Peace is expensive. God guards it carefully. Isaiah 26:3 says he will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are stayed on him. Peace is not accidental. It is intentional alignment. God is also dismantling the myth that love must come through struggle to be real. Struggle does not validate love. Commitment does. Endurance does. Obedience does. God is teaching you that love aligned with him does not drain you, it strengthens you. It does not confuse you. It clarifies you. You are learning to release the need to explain your journey to everyone. Some people will never understand your obedience because they are not called to your assignment. Silence can be wisdom. Jesus often withdrew rather than defended himself. Confidence does not need constant explanation. God is also training your discernment to recognize counterfeit connection. Counterfeits feel urgent, dramatic, consuming. Kingdom connections feel steady, respectful, patient. Counterfeits demand access. Kingdom connections earn trust. You are learning to slow down emotionally without shutting down relationally. Slowness allows observation. Observation reveals patterns. Patterns reveal character. Character sustains covenant. God is also teaching you how to recognize alignment through shared values rather than shared wounds. Trauma bonding feels intense but unstable. Healing alignment feels calm and safe. God desires safety for your heart. You may notice that your tolerance for inconsistency has decreased. This is not harshness, it is clarity. Inconsistency erodes trust. Trust is foundational for intimacy. God is refining your expectations to protect your future peace. God is also inviting you to surrender fear of disappointment. Disappointment often comes from misplaced expectation. When expectation rests on God rather than people, disappointment loses power. You are learning that kingdom partnership is built on mutual submission to God, not control over one another. Control suffocates love. Submission creates harmony. God is also shaping your understanding of leadership within relationship. Leadership in the kingdom is service, humility, and responsibility. You are learning to value character over charisma. You may sense that your spiritual sensitivity has increased. You feel unease quicker. You feel peace more clearly. This sensitivity is protection. God is sharpening your internal compass. God is also teaching you how to let go of shame associated with your age or past. Shame distorts identity. Grace restores it. Grace reminds you that God redeems time, not just mistakes. You are learning to see your singleness not as an absence, but as a season of focused stewardship. Paul spoke of singleness as a season of undivided devotion. God uses every season intentionally. God is also preparing you to receive love without suspicion. Past hurt taught caution, but God is teaching trust again. Trust does not ignore wisdom. It partners with it. You are learning that attraction rooted in God does not require you to perform. You can be authentic. Authenticity sustains connection. God is also strengthening your prayer life to include intercession for your future partner. You pray for their faith, their protection, their obedience. Intercession builds unity before meeting. You may feel moments of quiet excitement again, not driven by fantasy, but by faith. Faith excites without overwhelming. God is teaching you to recognize when something is from Him by the fruit it produces: peace, clarity, consistency, growth. Fruit confirms alignment. You are learning to trust that God's plans do not compete with your desires. He placed the desire within you. He knows how to fulfill it righteously. God is also shaping your ability to remain teachable in love. Pride blocks growth. Humility invites grace. You are learning to let God heal relational wounds fully rather than carrying them into new connections. Healing prevents repetition. God is also teaching you to trust His timing even when cultural narratives feel loud. Culture rushes. God aligns. You may notice that your faith feels more anchored than ever. Anchored faith weathers storms. God is also reminding you that covenant requires sacrifice. Sacrifice is not loss, it is investment. You are learning to trust that the love God prepares will meet you where. You are not where you pretend to be. God is also preparing you to recognize love that honors God first. When God is first, love flows properly. You are learning that your story will testify of God's faithfulness. Testimonies require patience. God is shaping your heart to value spiritual intimacy alongside emotional and physical intimacy. Balance sustains union. You are learning to let go of fear that your best years are behind you. God renews strength. He restores youth like the eagles. God is also teaching you that joy is not postponed until marriage. Joy is cultivated now. Why? Oh, may sense that God is aligning circumstances, quietly conversations, opportunities, environments. Alignment often happens unnoticed. You are learning to remain obedient even when you cannot see the full picture. Obedience unlocks revelation. God is also strengthening your resolve to wait without compromising faith. Compromise delays clarity. You are learning to trust that God's hand is active even in stillness. God is working beyond your awareness. You are becoming ready in ways you cannot fully measure yet. God is aligning hearts, shaping character, refining timing. And as the sacred process continues, as faith remains steady, as hope stays alive, as wisdom deepens, as peace guards your heart, the journey presses forward without haste, without fear, without conclusion yet drawn, as God continues to work intentionally, patiently, and faithfully, allowing the story of alignment, love, and purpose to keep unfolding, still in motion, still being prepared, still moving toward what He has ordained. And as that unfolding stretches forward, God is also inviting you to reconsider what attraction truly means in the kingdom. Attraction is not merely the pull of emotion or the spark of chemistry. It is the quiet recognition of shared direction. Two lives moving toward God will eventually move toward each other without collision. This is why God has been so intentional about your spiritual alignment. He is not just preparing you to meet someone. He is preparing you to recognize them. You are learning that many people confuse intensity with intimacy. Intensity burns fast and fades quickly. Intimacy grows slowly and lasts deeply. God is training your heart to value depth over drama. Drama exhausts the soul, depth strengthens it. Love that is sustained by God does not demand constant reassurance. It rests in mutual trust. There were seasons when you felt overlooked, when invitations stopped coming, when social circles shifted, when you wondered if life was quietly moving on without you. But God was not excluding you. He was insulating you. Insulation protects what must mature without interference. Jesus spent 30 years in preparation before 3 years of public ministry. Timing in the kingdom has never followed human impatience. You are learning to see your past not as evidence of failure, but as testimony of refinement. Each disappointment sharpened your discernment. Each heartbreak clarified your values. Each unanswered prayer strengthened your dependence on God rather than people. Dependence on God creates security that no relationship can replace. God is also teaching you to trust His discernment over your attraction patterns. Some patterns were formed in survival, not wisdom. God gently interrupts those patterns by slowing you down, redirecting your focus, and healing the root of unhealthy attachment. Healing breaks cycles. You are learning to welcome conviction without shame. Conviction refines, shame restricts. When God corrects, as always for restoration. Restoration prepares you to love freely without fear of repetition. God is also expanding your capacity for patience by revealing its fruit. Patience teaches you how to remain kind under pressure, how to communicate calmly during tension, how to choose grace over reaction. These are not single traits. They are marital skills. You may notice that you are becoming more selective with who has access to your heart. Selectivity is not pride, it is stewardship. Your heart carries purpose. Purpose requires protection. God is also teaching you how to let go of the fantasy version of love and embrace the faithful version of love. Faithful love shows up consistently. It listens, it serves, it stays. Faithful love mirrors Christ's love for the church, sacrificial, patient, committed. You are learning that your prayers now carry authority because they are aligned with God's will. You are no longer praying from fear of being alone, but from faith in God's goodness. Faith-filled prayers invite peace even before answers arrive. God is also reminding you that your story does not need to resemble anyone else's to glorify Him. God receives glory through obedience, not imitation. Your journey will reflect His faithfulness in a way only your life can. You are learning to trust God's process, even when emotions fluctuate. Emotions are temporary. God's truth is constant. Anchoring yourself in truth stabilizes your heart. God is also shaping your understanding of love as partnership rather than possession. Partnership honors individuality while nurturing unity. Possession breeds control. Partnership cultivates respect. You may sense that God is healing old fears of abandonment. Fear of abandonment distorts attachment. God reassures you that He never leaves nor forsakes you. Secure attachment begins with God. You are learning that kingdom relationships require mutual growth. Growth prevents stagnation. God aligns people who are willing to grow together, not just feed together. God is also teaching you how to trust His silence. Silence does not mean inactivity. Seeds grow underground before breaking the surface. Growth unseen is still growth. You are learning to rest in the truth that God is intentional with introduction. When God introduces people, He also provides wisdom to steward connection. God is also refining your expectations around communication. Healthy communication is honest, respectful, and patient. God values understanding over assumption. You may notice that you are less willing to entertain ambiguity. Ambiguity drains emotional energy. Clarity brings peace. God is a God of clarity. You are learning to recognize when God is saying not yet versus not this. Discernment saves years. God is also strengthening your ability to remain hopeful without becoming naive. Hope grounded in God remains wise. You are learning that love aligned with God does not isolate you from community. It integrates you into it. Healthy relate. Iron-ships flourish in healthy environments. God is also teaching you to surrender fear of vulnerability by reminding you that courage is obedience. Obedience often requires courage. You may sense God encouraging you to keep your heart open while guarding it with wisdom. Balance is forming. God is also aligning your desires with your destiny. Destiny-directed desire is patient. You are learning that the right connection will not compete with God's peace within you. Peace will remain intact. God is also teaching you to recognize confirmation through consistency over time. Consistency reveals character. You are learning to let go of the fear that waiting has cost you something irreplaceable. Nothing God ordains is lost. God is also reminding you that your future partnership will be worth the preparation. Preparation prevents regret. You may notice that your faith has matured into trust that does not panic. Panic fades when trust grows. God is aligning hearts beyond your awareness. Alignment takes time. You are learning to remain obedient even when answers are incomplete. Obedience precedes clarity. God is also teaching you to celebrate progress rather than fixate on arrival. You are learning to trust that God's hand is guiding even the unseen details. God continues working intentionally, patiently, faithfully, and as this sacred journey keeps unfolding, as trust remains steady. As hope stays anchored, as wisdom continues to deepen, the story moves forward without PR. Assure, without fear, without finality yet spoken. As God continues aligning hearts, refining timing, and preparing covenant in His perfect way, allowing the rhythm of faith, growth, and expectation to carry on, still unfolding, still moving, still becoming. And in that becoming, God is also teaching you how to trust yourself again, not the impulsive self that once rushed, but the renewed self that listens, prays, and discerns. Trusting yourself now looks different because it is anchored in God. You no longer rely solely on emotion to guide decisions. You weigh peace, consistency, and fruit. This is growth. Growth does not announce itself loudly, but it changes everything quietly. You are learning that God's promises do not expire with age. They mature with time. Time does not weaken a promise, it strengthens its foundation. Abraham did not receive Isaac early, but when he did, the promise carried legacy. God's delays often produce generational impact, not just personal fulfillment. God is also reshaping how you see companionship. Companionship is not about filling silence. It is about sharing purpose. Two people walking in alignment amplify each other's obedience. This is why God has been so protective of your heart. He's guarding something sacred, not withholding something good. You may notice that your emotional reactions are slower now. You pause. You reflect. You pray. This pause is not fear, it is wisdom. Wisdom creates space for God to speak. In that space, clarity G, rose. God is also teaching you to recognize when attraction is pulling you toward God rather than away from Him. Kingdom attraction deepens prayer, not diminishes it. It encourages obedience, not compromise. It strengthens faith, not distracts from it. You are learning that loneliness is a signal, not a sentence. It signals desire, not deficiency. Desire points you toward connection, but God determines the direction. You bring loneliness to God, not to people who cannot heal it. God is also reminding you that you are allowed to want love without idolizing it. Desire becomes idolatry only when it replaces God as source. When God remains first, love becomes gift, not God. You may sense God inviting you to release shame connected to being single after a certain age. Shame does not come from God. God never shames His children for timing He ordained. Shame silences joy. Grace restores dignity. God is also strengthening your ability to wait with hope rather than resignation. Resignation shuts down expectation. Hope stays open. Romans 15:13 speaks of God filling you with joy and peace as you trust Him, so that you may overflow with hope. You are learning that overflow attracts alignment. Overflow means you are not empty. You are not waiting to be filled by someone else. You are already filled by God. God is also teaching you to recognize that some of the best love stories unfold quietly. They are not dramatic. They are steady. They are rooted in friendship, mutual respect, and shared faith. Quiet love often lasts longest. You may notice that God is teaching you to enjoy your own company more. Enjoying your own company prepares you to enjoy partnership without losing yourself. Identity remains intact. God is also showing you how to release pressure to figure it all out. God does not require full understanding before obedience. He requires trust. Trust opens doors understanding cannot. You are learning that God's preparation often feels repetitive because repetition builds muscle memory. Faith grows strong through consistent practice. God is also refining your emotional vocabulary. You can articulate needs now. You can express boundaries. You can communicate without accusation. These are relational skills developed in waiting. You may sense God encouraging you to keep serving, keep building, keep loving people well. Service keeps the heart soft. Soft hearts remain receptive. God is also reminding you that love in the kingdom is purposeful. It has assignment attached to it. God does not join lives casually. He joins them intentionally. You are learning that kingdom partnership does not isolate you from God. It draws you closer to Him. The right person encourages your prayer life, not competes with it. God is also teaching you how to release fear of repeating past mistakes by trusting His guidance. You are not the same person you once were. Wisdom changes outcomes. You may notice that your faith now carries authority because it has been tested. Tested faith stands firm. God is also reminding you that your journey is not delayed, it is detailed. God pays attention to details. He aligns them carefully. You are learning to trust God's orchestration even when it does not match your expectations. God's ways exceed understanding. God is also shaping your perspective to see waiting as collaboration. You are not inactive. You are cooperating with God through obedience. You may sense God reassuring you that you are seen. Seen in your prayers. Seen in your obedience. Seen in your tears. God never overlooks faithfulness. God is also teaching you how to hold hope gently, not tightly. Tight grip produces anxiety. Gentle trust produces peace. You are learning that timing is part of the blessing. What arrives at the wrong time can become burden. God ensures readiness. God is also preparing you to recognize love that honors your past without being threatened by it. Maturity does not compete with history. It learns from it. You may notice that God is shifting your focus from when to who you are becoming. Becoming prepares receiving. God is also teaching you to trust His yes, even when it has not arrived yet. God's yes often comes after deep preparation. You are learning to remain faithful in small decisions. Small obedience leads to big alignment. God is also reminding you that the right relationship will feel like partnership, not performance. You will not need to audition. You may sense that God is aligning conversations, spaces, and opportunities in subtle ways. Subtle alignment still counts. God is also teaching you that love does not need to rush to be real. Patience protects purpose. You are learning to trust God's wisdom over your impatience. Impatience fades when trust grows. God is also strengthening your inner life so that external blessings do not overwhelm you. You are learning that God's promises are still unfolding, still alive, still active. God continues shaping, aligning, refining. And as this sacred unfolding continues, as trust remains anchored, as hope stays alive, as wisdom deepens, as peace guards your heart, the journey keeps moving forward without pressure, without fear, without final closure yet revealed, as God continues His careful work of alignment, preparation, and purpose, allowing the story of kingdom love to keep unfolding, still forming, still drawing nearer, still becoming, in His perfect time. As you stand here now after the waiting, after the questions, after the quiet season, that stretched your faith, you are not standing at the end of something, but at the threshold of fulfillment. What God has been forming in you was never meant to leave you empty. It was meant to make you whole. Every prayer you whispered, every moment you chose obedience over impatience, every time you trusted God when the outcome was unclear, has shaped a heart capable of stewarding love with wisdom and grace. You are not late. You realigned. Remember this: God is not intimidated by your age, your past, or the timeline others tried to place on your life. He is the author of seasons, and He writes with intention. The same God who brought Sarah laughter, who restored Ruth's future, who honored Hannah's tears, is still faithful today. What He has prepared for you will not require striving, explaining, or shrinking. It will recognize you, meet you in peace, and walk with you in purpose. So remain anchored in faith, grounded in truth, and open in hope. Continue to live fully, love deeply, and trust boldly. The promise of God does not arrive to prove anything to people. It arrives to glorify Him and bless you. And when that moment comes, you will see clearly that nothing was wasted, nothing was delayed, and nothing was denied. It was all preparing you for a love that reflects heaven's order, God's timing, and His unfailing goodness.